Hi everybody, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to be continuing on with my Dog Trainer Reacts series. If you've not seen the first installment of this series, please be sure to go down in the description below and check it out. I reacted to Mikey from Glam&Gore's video about how she taught her dogs to use a bell in order to communicate that they wanted to go outside, and I think that if you are interested in doing something similar, or if you want a professional dog trainer's perspective on that, definitely worth a shot to go check that out. If you are new here, please be sure to subscribe to my channel and go ahead and like this video and leave a comment below if there's any other YouTubers that you would like me to react to. For those of you who don't know, I am a professional dog trainer, and I'm going to be using that expertise today to react to Molly Burke's video titled "I Almost Left Training Without My Guide Dog." Molly Burke is a YouTuber and motivational speaker. She is blind, and this video is going to be talking about her guide dog Gallop and the experience that she went through getting him from this training facility in Canada. I know this video is going to be very guide dog specific because that is what she has experience in, but I'm hoping that we're able to get some nuggets of knowledge that I can help pass on to you guys to help you with your ordinary companion animals, our furry friends that we all know and love. If you're looking into getting a service dog yourself, please look for a professional trainer who has experience working with service animals in order to help guide you through that process. It is a whole process from picking up the dog, choosing the dog, training it, working with it, and all of that jazz. So do your research, and I'm just going to leave it at that. If you'd like me to do a whole video about the differences between service animals, emotional support animals, and therapy animals, please let me know. That is definitely a topic that I have a lot of feelings about, and I would love to share those with you in order to educate you guys on the differences, because I think it's very important, especially as the service animal community and need continues to grow, to really know the differences between those. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and react to this video. Quick disclaimer, I am starting the video about 10 minutes in, just because the first half is Molly talking about her life updates, and she's releasing a new merch line. Please be sure to check the description box below and watch the original video for all of the content instead of just my short and condensed version here. So, let's get started.
So, Gallop was not the first guide dog I received when I went to get Gallop. My first guide dog, Gypsy, I made the story of her death. I'll pop it in the description box below, or you can click up here. It was one of those kind of things. And so she died on May 22nd, and I called the guide dog school to inform them, and they said, we have one slot open for our August class. Would you like it? Their July class is typically exclusively reserved for kids, ages 11 to 18. So July was off limits because I was like 21, I think, at the time that I got Gallop. So I went to the August class, got that last slot. Yes, they have classes of 8, which is quite small. Some schools do classes up to like 20. They keep their classes very small, so you get a lot of like one-on-one attention. And most guide dog schools pre-match. So you do like a form about your life, you do interviews, and before you ever get called to class, they're like, we found a dog for you, come on in. It's like The Price is Right. Like, we found a yellow lab named Leo for you, come on down to get your dog. That's not how Mira does it.
So I think that's definitely something that a lot of people don't take into consideration when they think about service animals. A lot of places, they do pre-match just because there's such a specific temperament that a dog has to have, as well as work ethic and all of that good stuff that goes into making a successful service dog. And a lot of those are very specific to the person as well. So finding a dog that's going to be a good match is difficult. It takes a professional for sure, and so some do just automatically match, and that is pretty common.
Oh, at the time that I was there, they told me they had 18 dogs ready. So the 8 of us had 18 dogs to pick from. And we basically spent like 2 to 3 days in the kennels working the different dogs. So I worked 5 different dogs total over the first 2 days, none of which were Gallop. However, I did work one of Gallop's brothers who looked identical to him, just slightly smaller, and his name was Tico, but he was much more rambunctious than Gallop. Gallop, as you guys know, is the sleepiest creature you've ever met. Most laid back and easygoing, which is exactly why he's perfect for my crazy, high-strung, insane, busy lifestyle.
Yeah, so having a dog that's going to complement your lifestyle is important for anybody. Even me personally, or you watching, you're going to want a dog that's going to fit your lifestyle so you're able to successfully live in harmony and do anything that you are wanting to do with your dog. It's even more important when you have a service animal because they get to experience all aspects of your life, and that match really needs to work since you're going to be a team. Whereas if I at home had a dog that, like, you know, we got along most of the time, but sometimes it just did not mesh. But like, you love them anyway. That would not make a good service animal because you need to mesh pretty close to all the time. So it's definitely something to keep in consideration for anybody involved.
I didn't try him. I tried, let me see, I can't remember all the names. I tried Tico. I tried Ozo, who I lovingly referred to as Bozo. Most guide dog schools give the litters letters. So it'll be like A litter, and it's like Adam, alphabet, apple, asparagus, and then B, and it's like boat, Bob. But Mira does themes. So Gypsy's puppy litter theme was famous musicians. She was named after a Spanish band called Gypsy Kings. Gallop's litter theme was, for some reason, Nobel Prize winners and famous inventors. If you know what Tico invented, feel free to let me know.
I love that a lot, actually. A lot of places will do themed names, whether it be a kennel doing like the ABC method, or they go by themes. Shelters, a lot of the time when they get a shipment of dogs, will do themes. I know that my local humane society, they have what they call the saving train, where they go to different places in California, rescue dogs from high kill shelters, bring them back and adopt them out here. But they do themes, so they'll like bring back a group of dogs and they'll all like have food names or things like that. I think that that's really cool. I think it's cute.
And finally, we ended up deciding, mainly because I forced the issue, we ended up deciding that I was going to take away a dog named Mistral, which I believe is a type of wind. He was from the weather theme, so there was like sunny and like rain and different things like that, cloudy or whatever, I don't know, I can't remember, but he was Mistral. And so I decided to change his name because, yeah, I wasn't calling him Mistral. And so I changed his name to Milo, or that was my plan, was going to be to change his name to Milo. You have to wait a little bit, like you have to build the bond and the trust and the relationship before you can change their name. But you are in fact allowed to change a guide dog's name as long as it sounds like somewhat similar. So Milo and Mistral have the M and the L, so I felt like I could maybe get away with it, but definitely like Ozo to Bozo.
Yeah, so that goes for most dogs, especially if they're older and they've used that same name for a long time. It's going to be difficult for them to change their name just because they're so used to hearing one thing and all of a sudden you're calling them another. It can be done, but the easiest way to do it is going to be to make it similar, whether it rhymes, starts the same, ends the same. With all commands, they usually only listen to the first and end and just kind of build the pieces together in the middle. So something that's going to sound similar, start the same, end the same is going to be the way to go. However, I did not follow that advice at all. My dog's name when I got her was Puddles, and I then changed her name to Luna. They sound nothing alike, but she was also 3 months old, so the younger they are, the easier it is for them to switch. Now she's laying over here asleep, and I keep saying Puddles, and I'm getting zero reaction from her. So there's that.
Mainly, I wanted him because he reminded me nothing of Gypsy. I was still very emotionally traumatized from losing Gypsy, and I couldn't really cope with it. And I just wasn't really in a place where I could have dealt with a dog that reminded me anything of Gypsy. So I was like, okay, she was tall and skinny, he's short and stocky. She had short hair, he has long hair. Like, girl, boy, it just reminded me nothing of Gypsy. And so that's really why I was like, I want this one, I want this one. And honestly, I think they just felt so bad that I was like such an emotional wreck, they gave in. Even though they really knew like it probably wasn't the one for me. But they let me figure that out on my own, and I needed that.
Yeah, so definitely for things where maybe as a trainer you know that something isn't a good fit, or you know that it's not going to work very well, it's much easier to have someone figure that out on their own, as long as it's going to be like obviously safe for them and the dog, than it is to try to convince them otherwise. And I feel like that's the same for most things in life and most people, because once you come to terms with it yourself, you're more willing to take that next step forward into something that will work. You're a little bit more open-minded to the opinions of people who know the topic and are professionals. So yeah, sometimes letting someone figure something out on their own, as long as it's not harmful in any way, is gonna be a good option.
So I worked with Mistral or Milo for the next 2 days out. Like, everybody had now had their dog selected, and I like that at Mira, like, the selection process is a combination of you and the trainers picking what dog's best for you after like working together. So you do like obstacle courses with them and speed tests with them, and you get to like hang out with them outside in the field and like command them and stuff like that. So you really get to know each dog. I really like the way they do that instead of pre-matching. I think it would be so weird to be pre-matched. I just can't imagine it.
Yeah, I definitely think that's cool. And probably what I would prefer as a trainer, just because there is a lot that goes into dog ownership and really matching with your dog. And on paper it could be one thing, but obviously if you are putting so much time and effort and money into something, you want to enjoy it. And I'm not saying that people don't enjoy their guide dogs, because guide dogs and service dogs of all types are a form of independence. It gives you some freedom in another way that you wouldn't be able to have it. But I feel like being able to have at least some say in your dog is important. But also being led with the knowledge of a trainer who knows what they're talking about, has done it multiple times, several hundreds even of times, with good success, to kind of understand what's going to work best for you. And having that partnership, I think, is going to be very beneficial. And that goes with companion animals as well. When you're adopting an animal or getting an animal from a breeder, you definitely want to have that connection with them, rather than just kind of get thrust an animal and hope for the best. That's why you shouldn't gift pets.
We started like doing stuff around the campus and then going out into the small local town of St. Madeleine, and it just wasn't working. Milo was not listening to me, he didn't respect me, he didn't care about what I said, and that's a big thing over those first few days, is like gaining the dog's respect and trust and getting them to realize like you are boss, while also making them love you. It's a very challenging process. It's very delicate.
And again, advice that you can take into your companion animal ownership. Obviously for service animals it's much more important and much more delicate of a balance of that respect and love and affection, because they are performing a job and they have to know the risks involved with not performing their job well. They also need to respect you as the handler to, survive, do their job. But even with companion animals, you want to love them and spoil them and show them all this affection, but not so much that they won't listen to you, that they have no training, that they develop a bunch of behavioral and health problems because of it. A lot of the times I'll see people spoil their dogs And then their dogs are not trained. They rule the house. They're usually overweight because they're just constantly being fed off the table. And it's not good for the mental or physical health of your dog, and not good for your relationship. So finding that balance is extremely important regardless.
And it just wasn't working. He was guiding me into things like car doors and poles. He was walking randomly across streets without stopping on the curbs. Like, he was just not doing anything right. He wouldn't sit, nothing. And so eventually I was just like, I can't deal with this. I went to the trainers, and after 2 days, and I was like, I don't think this is right. And they were like, we totally agree. Let's take you back into the kennel tomorrow morning. We have 2 ideas. They had a female dog that they thought would be right for me, and that's what they had told me. And the next morning, before we all went out, before we harnessed up the pooches and went out, they took me, the 2 trainers that we were working with, took me into the kennel, and instead of bringing out the female dog, which was a St. Pierre, they brought out Gallop and told me, you worked with his brother Chico, but Gallop's much quieter, much softer, much more gentle, and we think he could really be like the right one for you. Like, he was so quiet. He honestly had 0 personality. He knows this. I've told him all of this. He's aware. Mom, can you attest he has come out of his shell oodles and oodles and oodles over the 5 years, 6 years?
Oodles.
Like,
Oodles.
he's a different dog than who came home to us.
Very different.
He was so shy, he was so timid, he was so reserved. Even for the first year that I had him, he would just cling to me all the time when he was off harness. He never wanted to meet new people. He was very shy. He didn't bark for at least a year. Like, he never used his vocal cords.
Yeah, so this is pretty common. The more that a dog is used to you and the more you work with a dog, the more they will kind of come out of their shell. Also comes out with maturity. So the older they get, the more they're going to develop their personality, the more their personality is going to change from when you first got them. And especially shelter dogs, they do need time to adjust and to come out of their shell. And it could take days, it could take months, it could take years for them to adjust and get comfortable with that. And you just need to give them time, be patient, and allow them to do so.
He was tall like Gypsy, and he had short hair like Gypsy, and he was the same breed as Gypsy, but he had none of her sparkle. And it was just too hard. Like, he physically, to touch, reminded me of enough of Gypsy to remind me he wasn't Gypsy. And she was never coming back. And other guide dog handlers I know that have gone through 5, 6, 7 guide dogs, which is crazy to think in my lifetime I could have up to 10 guide dogs. It's nuts. And each one of those is going to have a special, unique, wonderful bond and personality and spirit and place in my life and time and be a different chapter, But they all say the transition from 1 to 2 is the hardest there is. Number 1, you have no idea what to expect. Number 3, 4, 5, you've transitioned before. But number 1 to number 2, you've only ever known one dog and one experience, and everyone is so different. So you can't compare them, but how can you not when it's all you know? So it's very tough.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine, because for a lot of people who own dogs and lose a dog, some immediately get another dog. I know people who have it strategically planned where every 3 years they get a dog, and then that way they just cycle through and you have another dog set up in case something happens, and then you can kind of use them for the emotional support of getting over your past dog. I've known other people who one dog passes, next week they have another puppy, and that's how they cope. And I've also heard of people who go decades without getting another dog because they're just so devastated by the passing of their previous dog. And I can't imagine because service dogs have a job. That's what they're there for. Their primary purpose is to assist people who are in need of a service dog in order to live their life and have that independence. So it's not like one passes and you're just okay, I can wait for me to emotionally recover. I can wait a year or 2. It'll be fine. I'll wait for the perfect one. It has a job that needs to be filled. So you kind of have to just move on to the next. And yeah, from my personal experience, I've heard of a lot of people who, while they still have their previous service animal, they will start training a new one and kind of slowly transition one from working to retirement and then from in training to working. And that way there's a little bit of transition before one passes. I don't know if the particular training facility that she is working with goes that route, but obviously as a dog gets older, you can't have a dog that can barely walk on its own walk you. So there is that retirement phase. She seems to have lost her previous service dog, Gypsy, unexpectedly, so there was no room for that retirement and transition. But I really feel for her, because you get no time to grieve, and oof.
I was like, all right, you know, and they were like, he deserves a chance, you know, and I'm really glad they said that, because it's almost 6 years later, and obviously we all love, adore, like, how can you, like, look, it's just Clifford the big red dog who? Gallop the big black goose. Like, we love him. So I was still crying. I was still sobbing. I was such a mess. And I sat on the couch that afternoon when we were back for the lunch break. And I was just sitting alone on the couch in the common room crying to myself. And Gallop was laying on the floor. And then he stood up and he turned and he put his booty on the couch like a little human. But his forepaws were on the ground. So he like literally was sitting like a human, which we now know he does relatively frequently. And he turned and he looked at me as I cried. And I just looked over at him, and his giant head was looking at me with his booty on the couch and his paws on the ground. Like, he was just like this little old man. Even though he was 2, he's always had an old man spirit. So he sat down and it was like, he was like, I know, I'm sorry. And I just, through all the tears that I've been crying for hours, burst out laughing.
I thought her video was super sweet. I hope that you guys were able to take some of the things that I said and apply it to your own dogs and any future dogs that you may be getting. Or I hope that you learned a little bit about service animals. Again, if you're interested in me making a video about service animals versus emotional support versus therapy animals, let me know. I would love to do that. And if you're interested in any more videos from this Dog Trainer Reacts series, be sure to let me know who you'd like me to react to down below. Be sure to give this video a like, comment, and subscribe down below to stay up to date with all of my content. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.